Phoenix Down Radio is on the air.
Welcome, everybody, to Phoenix Down Radio, episode 137. I am your host, Klauss Nightbringer, and joining me, we have Taliz and Seyrr. Woo!
Woo.
We survived.
What's up, dudes?
We're here. We're doing stuff. We're back in game. Even though I haven't really played, I think all
that
week.
is actually like a thing we haven't done in a while.
Yeah.
But we weren't in game last episode because we wanted to try something different. We didn't need to be in game.
Mm-hmm.
But now this week we're actually talking about Final Fantasy XIV as our main topic for once.
Yeah, we're talking about a lot of 14 tonight, by the way.
The next two episodes are going to be very 14 heavy, and you'll find out here in a minute. But before we get into that, what have you guys been up to the last 2 weeks?
Yes.
Okay, so Seyrr has been throwing up fish.
Yeah,
God.
There was a lot of throwing of fish. A couple times the fish did 20 whole damage. And then I learned to make things explode with the power of my mind.
And the power of you exploding.
Also a fuck ton of maps. Like, oh my god, my inventory is still so clogged. I had 90 free spaces and now I have 5.
Dude, that's a lot of crap.
Yeah. I mean, some of it I'm going to be able to process and just sell off, but there's a lot through.
Yeah, it takes time to get through some of that stuff. Hopefully you have some space to sell shit on your retainers.
A little bit. I'm going to need to do a lot of processing, materials-wise. I mean, I guess, and psychology-wise, but...
Anything else in or out of game?
I started playing Parkitect with some friends, and apparently I'm now in charge of our fireworks displays. It's like Roller Coaster Tycoon. It's kind of a spiritual successor to it, and it has a multiplayer mode.
As Taliz pops a ramune.
I have to, man. It's time. It's time.
Library program started up for spring semester.
Okay.
So back to being busy on that.
Is Homework Club back?
Homework Club's back, but in a reduced format.
Okay.
We're trying fewer days a week, and we put some more strict restrictions on stuff just because the trying to be as open as possible to every single thing a student might want ended up eating so much employee hours in terms of the overhead to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something a little more balanced.
Okay. Well, that sounds fun. Hopefully it's all remote though, right?
It's still all remote.
Okay.
We are in a tier where I do go into the library for 2 hours a week, but it's for something that absolutely cannot be done anywhere else, and they had to have specific stuff to not linger in the building if you don't absolutely need to be there for job duties.
I see. That's, well, as long as you're kind of getting back into a little bit of a safe normalcy, shall we call it?
Yes. Especially in the last few days, stuff feels a little more normal, and there's not the ever-present sense of dread and what the hell is going to happen next at the back of my head. Like, there's still some curiosity about what will happen next, but not in the "and how will I survive it" sense.
Okay. Well, that's good. How about you, Taliz?
I fixed the bunch of stuff on my mom's car for her birthday last week. I have been driving a lot. We lost and gained a whole bunch of employees, so I'm kind of having to pick up weird stuff here, there, and everywhere. I've been talking with a bunch of people regarding the business I started, including Wander Sabaku, friend of the show, who's helping us out with some legal stuff, which is pretty cool. Thank you again, Seyrr, for connecting us so that we could make that magic happen.
He's good people.
Definitely.
We are still sort of working on a final design for t-shirts and lanyards and crap, so that'll be super fun too. as far as in-game, I actually finally started playing again because there was actually stuff to do. Because I basically
Yay.
took most of 2020 off of 14 because there just wasn't anything to do. And now there's stuff to do. And I did it all. And now I'm like, crap, now what am I supposed to do? So I'm leveling tanks again because I have time.
Well, I mean, that is one thing to do in the game is get everything up to level cap.
Up to 80.
You know, at least by the time that 6.0 comes out. So.
Maybe. I mean, I haven't gotten I didn't get a healer to level cap until like September of last year. So obviously it's not a huge priority in my life.
That's fair.
But I've gotten a few things up. I did, because I took so much time off, I came back and all of my gear was just a disaster. So shout outs to the awesome people who pentamelded freaking everything and slammed it up onto the market board for the same cost as the unmelded HQ gear.
Wow.
So I have HQ crafted 510 everything with pentamelds.
Very cool. Very nice.
2.5 million gil, 2 million gil, somewhere in there later. And I just like, well, I don't need to go to Eden and get MacGuffins. I don't need to do extremes. I don't need to do Savage. I don't need to do the 24-man 300 times in a row.
But then
I just have stuff.
How will you enjoy tender moments with the lesbians?
Well, I mean,
I'm good. I'm good.
Granted, the normal Eden stuff is 510, but the other stuff is 520, is it not? Like your Tombstone gear and the Savage gear.
It's the MMO problem, right? Like you kill the thing to get better things so that you can kill that thing better, and then the next thing comes out and you have to struggle to kill that to get more things to kill that thing better, repeat ad nauseum. Since I'm not trying to kill the better thing, and the hardest stuff I'm going to do is just a whole lot of dungeons in a row or maps, 510's fine.
That's fair. You're still 15 eye levels higher than me right now. I'm still actually running the same gear that I had at the end of 5.3. I could get a few pieces from Eden drops, and then I could buy a couple of pieces of Tombstone gear. I just haven't yet. I'm running everything that I'm running. I'm way over geared for still, and it hasn't really caused me any issue with that. Though, to be honest with you, go ahead.
I was capped on tomes, the expired tomes.
Oh,
so I bought some tome gear, but I didn't get much.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I haven't been running too much, and I haven't capped on the new tomes since the first week, maybe the second week, but. I don't know. Like I said, I did the storyline. I did finish storyline. I finished Sorrow of Werlyt for this patch, and that's really it. It's right now is a time when I'm not really focused on wanting to continuously play Final Fantasy XIV. I'm kind of wanting to take a break from it. So
I hit that, and I did it for 6 months, and it, take a break. It's cool. It'll still be here.
Exactly.
It will almost always still be here.
It's kind of liberating to not have to worry about, I didn't cap my tomes this week. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Monday night, I go, what am I at? Am I close to 450? Can I finish it in 2 dungeon runs? Does an expert roulette going to give me 90? Can I get it? And I'm sitting here going, or beer.
The treadmill
or
sit on my
cider.
couch
and have a beer. And it's going to be just fine.
Or maybe I want to play Minecraft instead.
Anyways. It's fine.
Which I have been playing some more Minecraft. It's been fun. I've been playing around in a single player world. I've been playing with mods. Mods are fun. If you've never played Minecraft and you haven't played with, or if you played Minecraft but never played with mods, they're fun. They make the game real interesting. So I've been doing that.
I don't doubt it.
Also found a new skin for my character, so I'm no longer actually I found the skin quite early on. No longer the normal Steve skin. I actually found a Major Hughes skin from FMA.
Oh God.
You gotta do something, right? But I've been streaming a little bit of that about once a week here on twitch.tv/PhoenixDownRadio. So if you like Minecraft and want to see an old guy play a game, very poorly, come check it out.
I had a roommate that played a lot of Minecraft. I watched them play for about an hour and a half, and I was like, have you progressed at all? And they just kind of turned at me and like, you don't really know how this game works, do you? And I was like,
Yeah.
Obviously not. I don't know if this is for me.
The fact that you use the word progressed there kind of says everything.
I don't want to build a thing. I want to play a game. If I wanted to build something, there's a shop outside.
So the comparison I would make is to Legos. Legos are not a game. Legos are a toy with which you can play a variety of games, including any number of things you can make up yourself. They are a thing that enables games, but they are not in and of themselves a game.
Well,
Nope. Definitely not my style then.
Minecraft does actually have a story now, and there is a way to beat the game.
Sure, but that's something that they added onto like the base structure.
Yeah, but
I think I've defeated Minecraft in the best and most thorough way possible.
by not playing the game.
Never even installed it on anything I've ever owned.
Hey, I think I can beat you. I got paid to play it.
As a former game tester,
I got paid to play it the way that I felt like playing it.
Nah.
Library programs. I was setting up some stuff in Minecraft, so I actually got to play Minecraft and mess around with it for the library programs. And it was on the clock.
I don't know if it was get paid and play Minecraft or don't get paid and don't play Minecraft. I'm happy being broke. Sorry, man.
I mean, if it was you play Minecraft in this case is defined as faff around and just figure out what you want to do with it and call it good. Like, it's still undirected play. It's like playing with Legos.
Yeah, but I didn't really like Legos.
We need a new co-host.
Yeah, sorry, man.
No, it's fine. I never got too big into Legos either. Constructs, though, I like playing with those. Do you ever play with Constructs?
I've never heard of them.
Anyway, so let's talk about...
Sorry, man. I didn't have a childhood, remember?
So let's talk about some Final Fantasy VII news. Apparently, at the end of last year, Square Enix trademarked Ever Crisis, the First Soldier, and the Shinra Electric Power Company logo in Japan. And just recently, they trademarked Ever Crisis in Canada and the EU.
I'm a little surprised they hadn't done the Shinra Electric Power Company logo already. Like, that's been around for ages, but maybe they just felt a need to, or maybe they have plans that make it more relevant. Ever Crisis, I do remember ages ago there was a game called Before Crisis that was like an early mobile phone game.
Yep. Ever Crisis sounds very much like it could be related to the mobile game Before Crisis.
Which I want to say had something to do with the Turks.
Yep. Or the Crisis Core game from PSP.
Which also had plenty to do with the Turks.
And First Soldier probably is referencing Sephiroth.
Yeah. Though there's also a possibility of referencing a couple of the others from Crisis Core because of the entire mythology that it adds about like the early members of Soldier. I also saw some speculation that it could be somehow related to Zack.
Wasn't there Angeal? Or
Angeal?
Yeah. Also, Taliz, thanks
I know
for the
that
resub.
Angeal is... Yeah, right. That pop-up has been there for like 3 months.
Oh, fair enough.
I only know of Angeal because he had a card that wasn't terrible in FFTCG.
Yeah, he's involved with a lot of Crisis Core stuff. A lot of his things involve references to the various 7 deadly sins. Though he was a good guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have absolutely no idea who he is. So,
but it's a weird Crisis Core thing. There's some symbolism, whatnots.
But still, wasn't
Crisis Core was hard.
Yeah, it was fun.
But anyway.
I played for a while and I never got an HP upgrade in the roulette of stats, and so I just was like, well, I have made this game unplayable. So a friend of mine told me the story. And I was like, sweet, now I know the story. And then I immediately forgot all of it.
Like the fact that they did go ahead and so it was specifically a trademark, right? Because I know there's a difference between a copyright and a trademark.
Yeah,
And
these were trademarks.
Yes.
Interesting.
But generally, when Square Enix trademarks something, it generally means that they're going to be releasing a game or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So.
Like this would not be the first time that eagle-eyed fans have paid attention to the filings at the trademark office to get clues as to upcoming properties.
Mhm.
So yeah, it looks like we might be seeing. I mean, we already have the FF7 remake in process, having more spin-off or more related material. Not necessarily even a game, but just like a book, movie or some other side piece.
Yep.
Could be interesting. Maybe we'll go full on Yoko Taro with this and there will be a stage play.
We can only hope.
I honestly would watch the shit out of that.
How about a
sounds
Broadway
awesome.
musical?
Or the Dance Dance Revolution inspired rhythm game.
Final
Nope.
Fantasy VII, the rhythm game. Sign
You
me
know
up.
that the cabinet would be decorated up to look like the Honeybee Inn. It'd be great.
Yeah. All right.
Sarah, I have a sneaking suspicion I'm going to be texting you a picture from an Akiba arcade at like 3 a.m. local time. Just be like, hey, check this out.
Fuck yes.
It's going to be exactly that.
All right.
This is almost as much my jam as quick refrigerator jams.
All right, we have a lot more to talk
Sure.
about, so let's go ahead and continue on. There's a lot of Final Fantasy XIV news that we're going to be talking about today. Probably some of the biggest announcement that we've gotten is in 2 weeks, we will have the Final Fantasy XIV announcement showcase.
Sweet. Thank God.
And that's
Which-
going to... Go ahead.
No, keep going.
I was going to say that's going to start at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time or 8:30 p.m. Eastern time on February 5th. So check out the standard YouTube or Twitch links for Final Fantasy XIV, as they'll have all the
Friday
information there.
It's an unusual time for these things.
Let's see, 5:30 p.m. That makes it.
Like 9:30 a.m.
No, they
It's 8
are.
hours difference, isn't it?
See, I think 3 is 8 or something. I don't know. It's 16 or 17
It's going to
hours
be
from
pretty
the West
early in the
Coast.
morning for them.
Balls o'clock. Got it.
5:30 p.m. in Tokyo. 5:30 p.m. PST in Tokyo.
Yes.
Yeah.
10:30 a.m.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, that'd be fine. But that's not the only thing we're going to be getting that day, is because right after the announcement showcase, we are also going to get Live Letter 62. And
Sweet.
that's going to be taking place at 1 a.m. Eastern or 10 p.m. Pacific time.
So
And-
that's an announcement showcase of about an hour and a half.
No, the announcement
Mhm.
showcase is going to be probably about
Oh no, I'm
4.5 hours.
Oh, I misread times on there. So yeah, several hours. I wouldn't be surprised if they had like at least a short break between.
Oh yeah, I would say we probably have a 4-hour showcase where we'll probably learn about the new expansion. So we'll get a title for that. We'll get maybe some box art. We'll get the trailer. And
They'll show us.
we might get a release date.
They'll show us Apothecary. It's totally going to be Apothecary, right?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm looking forward to finding out if we get new jobs, which we probably will.
No,
Yeah.
like okay. If we're placing bets, new healer, Apothecary. They hinted it so hard in 5.3.
New healer. Yeah, I would either say that or chemist, depending on how they want to use the naming.
Yeah, that's just a difference in naming. It's the same concept.
Well, it's like, was it Flintlock and Rifleman in Tactics and Tactics Advance? Same kind of idea.
Effectively the same for our purposes.
Exactly. It's one of those things. It's like, are you a white mage? Yes. Do you know this spell? No. What are you talking about? Well, that's from 9 and I'm from 4 and I also same idea. Get the general concept down. And because we have such strong healers as is, adding a 4th healer, we might end up with the tank problem that we had with Dark Knight and Gunbreaker, where we didn't end up with more tanks. We ended up with the tanks we had now had more options. So I'm looking forward to getting a new healer and hopefully having more people try out healing, because it's getting rough in queue. So I want to see more healers.
Well, they're trying to make sure that whatever job they do put in, that they feel like a different job, not just like a reskinned same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't. Otherwise, they could just call it generic healer 4.
Yeah, generic healer 4, because my warrior plays different than my paladin, but my paladin plays pretty much the same as my dark knight.
Yeah, like the class fantasy is absolutely important.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can do damage. So I mean, having so many different damage dealing classes, it's real easy to create a new one of those. But there's only so many ways you can heal. So.
And we can, I mean, we also, it's a fantasy game, right? And like when in doubt, throw lore at it. When in doubt, throw flavor at it. And it's like, okay, well, this one is calling from the natural mana of the earth, and this one is calling from the arcana out of your cards, and this one is actually a secondary fairy that only some people are able to get. Okay, at the end of the day, it's still little heal, mid heal, big heal, barrier, shieldy thing, get up. Like it's all the same stuff. It's just called something a little different.
They do play differently, though.
Very much so. Astro plays very differently than Scholar, which
that's why it's the last one for me to level. Because I'm still trying to get my head around it.
Honestly, old Scholar or old Astro was good, but required a reasonable degree of skill to use correctly and well. Kind of the remade one was a lot easier, and then this one where they're just like, there's only 3 types of cards. Now it's not as interesting, but
easy to pick up.
Fine.
Though.
A lot easier to pick up, and that's what they were going for. But definitely, if you play the level like 35 through 55 class quests, it's not a good time because you just don't have it.
So bets on the second job we get. My guess would be another ranged physical DPS. We only have 3. Already. We only have 3. Everything else has like 4 or 5.
So we've got 3 magic range DPS, 3 physical range DPS, 4 melee DPS, 4 tanks, and then 3 healers.
So maybe another caster?
Geomancer?
Well, wasn't Astro based off of that or something?
No.
Or which one was based off Geo?
Nobody.
No, there
not
was
in this game.
What am I thinking then?
You might be thinking of 11.
No. There's references to geomancy in 14.
Oh, there are.
And I want to say it's related to wasn't it Astros?
No, you're right. It was Astro, and then there was like a little hint in the Machinist storyline as well. But not as much as the straight up, you are standing on X, therefore when you channel mana, it does this.
Yeah.
Like a traditional Geo does. But a Geomancer does a different thing in a turn-based Final Fantasy versus something like Tactics, where Tactics you can move around on water, dirt, grass, tree, whatever. And then
the battlefield has entirely different selections of.
Yeah, you run out onto a battlefield, there's 4 of you on one side of the screen, 5 of them on the other, and you're like, cool, I can cast. Nothing helpful. I guess I have a sword. Like, it just kind of sucks sometimes. So in this, that's not really an option. And I don't see them adding a mechanic of where you're standing in the world via coordinates determines your spell. That would just be an absolute hassle in an online style.
Yeah, that would be terrible. I mean, because realistically, that just wouldn't work.
We'd have to come up with some other way. I mean, we made Blue Mage work. We made Red Mage work. We can make Geomancer work, but
the other thing would be if you do add this for like the terrain or other stuff affects it, you now need to go back to all of the old content that they could potentially be in and now suss out, okay, do we need to add this quality to all the various terrain? Do we need to now add this new thing? Do we need to redo all the dungeons to account for this?
They would have to redo all of the dungeons for sure. That would suck because you hit a leveling roulette with it, which people will, and then all of a sudden you're in Sastasha. And you're like, okay, oh God, trials would be a hassle. Can you imagine going into Cutter's Cry and just being like, I guess I'm throwing sand at you. Like, what options do you have? I don't know how Geomancer would work. My kind of sidearm pitch for it is honestly just the fact that it's a really fun and unique class. It's weird. The spell list is wild. I would love to see how they do it.
Lore-wise, they've already been hinting about Geomancer as like in a different type of thing where it's not just the what terrain you're standing on, but invoking these various elemental spirits in a way that's different from Conjurer. So like they might take it in a different direction if they have the lore-based support for that.
We also have Summoner, which we know, you bring out your pet, whatever. There's also two kinds of Summoner in the older, like, end generation games, where you have the Summoner, which is, here is an Ifrit, it stands here, it kills things until Ifrit dies, and then the party runs back in and we keep going. Or there's and your full screen is covered with Rama destroying everything in sight, and then he goes away, and we're all still here.
I mean, that second one is pretty much just like it's Thunder 3, but we put a different skin on it and made it AoE.
Exactly, but there's the caller side of Summoner or the summoning side of Summoner, and I'd like to see something more caller based. But then again, it feels like the same issue that we had with that SNES generation, where you get Fire 1, 2, 3, Fire 4 with a different name, and Fire 5, and there's an Ifrit on it, and that's not interesting. But I'd like to see. I want to see.
It only takes you so far on that.
Exactly. I'd like to see something really, really big and dramatic as a caster. I also would be very, very interested in seeing something like the cadets out of Type 0, where they all have really unique weapons, like the spiral sabers and such, where their combat style is just, I know how to fight with a sword. My sword is unique, though. Really leaning into your equipment determines the type of person that you are, which our armory system has already been doing since 2.0. So I would really like to see something where we get a unique way of playing that doesn't end up showing up like Blue Mage, where, cool, you can throw fish at people and run around on the battlefield, I guess.
Also,
I want to see something unique and huge.
Speaking of Blue Mage, what do you think the odds are that we get an announcement of another limited job? Probably not in the announcement showcase, but possibly in the live letter.
They're going to split up the announcements between the two things for sure.
Well, the live letter is basically 5.5 part 1. And if I remember correctly, didn't Blue Mage come out in a end patch?
It did. Master Shake just asked Beastmaster capture monsters. Yeah, I'd be down.
That's
I
actually
know some
what's
people have been rooting for Beastmaster or Puppet Master.
Yeah, Beastmaster and Puppet Master have been the two that have been talked about the most for the next limited job, and I think Beastmaster would be the easiest one. It wouldn't be a capture. You might capture, but it's probably more of the jug pets like they had in 11.
Yeah, catch and release. But that being said, Beastmaster is the usual weapons that you've seen in the past is either a bell or a whip, which is awesome because nothing else in the game uses that. So we don't end up with the rogue problem that we ended up with in 2.0, where all
gladiator weapons for a bit until
all the gladiators logged in and all their daggers were swords all of a sudden, and it just didn't make any sense because they had to move daggers somewhere else.
They were always holding those daggers weird anyways.
I was okay with it. It made sense. It was a big undertaking at the time.
They could also go with hand axes. That was a big one for 11, I believe.
Yeah, and I think Beastmasters and other ones have also used one-handed axes.
Dark Knights have used axes in the past.
They also
and White Mages have used bows. So we got it. It's one of those. Yes, we can take an inch. But that's a very slippery slope that we start falling down very, very quickly.
A distinctive weapon, I think, works for it.
No, and it has to be something that you do in Final Fantasy XIV because that's exactly how the armory system works.
Where in like Final Fantasy 1, you had options for your fighter, sword or axe. The axe hit harder. The sword had higher accuracy. Accuracy determined the number of hits that you did per round. So if you wanted to hit for 5 damage once or 7 damage once, well, you want to hit for 7. Well, if I'm hitting for 5 damage twice or 9 damage once, now all of a sudden the sword is better, and you had to figure out where those breaking points were in your leveling. Yep. So this is one of those situations where the armory system is a blessing and a curse.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to look forward to, and we're going to talk all about that in the next episode.
Woo!
All
Once we
right.
got
Some other interesting little bit of Final Fantasy XIV news that I happened to find. Apparently, there's going to be a collaborative manga with the manga Saki. I'm not familiar with it, but it's a high school-based manga. And
It's a... Hang on. Let me see if I'm remembering the right one, if this is the same article I saw.
all right, it's titled Saki.
Is this the Mahjong one?
To Final Fantasy XIV, the manga follows members of Saki's Kiyosumi High School as they play Domen Mahjong within Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah, the manga itself is already a high
Yeah,
school
this is
about playing mahjong.
All right, and the description of it
so
reads like this. Saki's never been a big fan of Mahjong. A lifetime of being forced to play with family at holidays and losing her money as a consequence has left a foul taste for the game in her mouth. When she's convinced, though, to play a game with her classmates, she discovers that not only has fending off her family left her with an uncanny ability for the game, but more surprisingly, that it can even be fun. So,
Is this revelation enough to cleanse Saki's distaste for the game? Can her classmates convince her to join their club? Or is there just too much baggage to make it worth her while?
I love this line. If you're
Saki?
looking for the #1 Mahjong manga out there, you found it.
Saki, mahjong is fine. Your family's just abusive dicks.
That too, but
But so yeah, it looks like they'll go ahead and start having the FF14 tie-in with the Domen Mahjong and the Gold Saucer. That actually sounds kind of cute.
I'd be okay with it.
so if you're
I actually do remember reading a little bit of this once upon a time.
Yeah, I want to go find it myself now.
So if you're a fan of that particular manga, go check it out. I believe the first chapters actually came out recently. I think yesterday, actually.
Yeah, it was pretty recent. There was also, I want to say there was also an anime for it, not a couple years ago.
Yeah, for this particular manga, yes, there was an anime that came out. There was a movie, I believe. There's been a number of things. It's been around since 2005, I believe the article said.
2005, 2006, something like that. But this is also falling in that same genre as the Phantasy Star Online 2 anime series, which was based on the student council meetings, which took place with them all meeting and logging into the game and then playing PSO2 while discussing school life related activities. And then they would cut back to not playing the game and they would be discussing in the school things that they were doing in game. It was a very dumb show, but it's a thought that they did. So this is kind of in the same vein of like, we're going to talk about a video game inside of a manga, but it should be fun because they're doing a side project and they're not trying to actually expose the narrative. They're just saying, hey, here's a fun side story collab thing that we're doing. I don't see the next Garo series talking about PvP in 14. Maybe. You never know.
All right, and then in some Final Fantasy adjacent news, the Final Fantasy creator Hironobu Sakaguchi is going to be releasing a new RPG later this year. In an article we found from Kotaku, come on, paste. There we go. His studio, Mistwalker, has been working on this new project called Fantasian for the past 3 years. It features hand-built dioramas that have been photographed and then scanned into 3D environments within this game. And Nobuo Uematsu is going to be doing the score.
Again, this is sounding a lot like the project they did years ago called Blue Dragon, where it was Sakaguchi, Akira Toriyama did the art, Uematsu did music, and it was like, cool, it's this all-star cast of production. Blue Dragon got a sequel, and it did get an anime series, so it did reasonably well in Japan. It didn't do super well over here. So I'm not sure if we're just leaning on the fact that we know Sakaguchi is amazing. Final Fantasy VI is an incredible title, but he's been running Mistwalker for years. They've released a handful of games. Most of them were pretty good AA and AAA titles. So I'm excited to see what they're going for, because Sakaguchi definitely has that old Square Enix mentality of, we're going to do a unique and different thing because nobody else will. And if it fails, that's fine. We can still keep going. And if it's wildly successful, then we end up with spin-offs and MMOs and anime series for years to come.
Like, I just the pictures they've shown of the dioramas, they just have this really unique style to them.
They do.
It's just so different from anything I've seen that I'm really intrigued by it.
Does anybody get like a weird Wes Anderson feeling out of this Happy New Year image?
No.
It's all one sepia tone. It's all unique styles of construction. It looks like a screenshot of an alternate version of Grand Budapest. To me.
Maybe.
But then this game is slated to release in Apple Arcade. So if you've got Apple Arcade, give it a try. If it's successful enough, they might port it to other platforms.
Hopefully so.
That would be nice.
Because I don't have an iPhone anymore. I'd like to play it.
I've never had an iPhone.
I've got one. I guess I will be first reporting or something.
All right, Seyrr.
Appreciated.
It's up to you. Help us, Seyrr. You're our only hope.
Well, you're screwed.
Or at least we're not going after the Death Star.
Yet.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this extremely long discussion topic we've got going today. We're going to be talking about the storyline from Final Fantasy XIV Patch 5.4. We're going to start with the main scenario, and then we're going to see if we have time to jump into Eden and the Sorrow of Werlyt. So,
yeah, this wasn't just before it gets started. I want to say, like, this one was interesting in a lot of ways. There were a lot of loose ends being either tied up or just addressed and integrated into things. At the same time, there wasn't specifically a lot that kind of happened. Like, there were things that happened, but in terms of like major moving the stuff forward, this one felt a lot more like table setting. We got because next one's going to be the 5.5 patch. That's probably going to be the last big one before 6.0.
Not quite. We do have a 4.5 edition that's going to be coming. And then we do have the 5.5 and then 5.55. So
right, but in terms of MSQ,
yeah, there will probably be some new storyline in the 0.45 patch. Not a ton
in the mids.
There has been.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and check the previous ones. You may be right on that. I am no longer sure. It's been long enough.
I know the 5.5 is a lot of times there's an addition to it.
Yeah. But like with Stormblood, when we were coming into Shadowbringers, you had the Scions starting to fall into their strange comas, things like that. In 3.5, I think it was, you had we had Omega and Shinryu. We had Baelsar's Wall with the provoking of our conflict with the Empire at Alamigo. Like, those are the ones where it's like, okay, this is the spark of the thing that's going to take us into that. The patch before was kind of a, hey, we're setting up the pieces. We're not having that being happen, but we're putting the stuff into place so it can start happening.
Yeah,
and that kind of feels a little like what was going on in this patch.
2.5 was what? Crystal Braves?
Crystal Braves,
2.4. I mean, 2.4 was Crystal Braves, and then 2.5 was the poisoning.
Right, the Crystal Braves coming to fruition, such as it is. So yeah, this one felt the same in that it's not the big event that's the catalyst that's going to take us into 6.0. It's kind of the table setting, getting the pieces in place so that they can go through that little kind of prologue overture. Which, again, like, there was still a lot of stuff that I appreciated and things that were like, oh, hey, I'm really happy about that. But it didn't quite have a lot of the big momentous things. And that's kind of okay. You need those table settings episodes to actually get your pieces set up. You've got your bottle episodes or your bridge episodes. That's fine. This was just one more of that kind of thing.
I mean, it wasn't filler. There was a lot of good stuff that happened.
Yeah, a bottle episode or a bridge episode is not filler. It's just maybe less dynamic, less of the, hey, here is the huge earth-shaking thing. Though we did have big changes in the setting that we'll get into as we go on.
Yep.
But I mostly wanted to set that as like kind of the expectations in Preface. This one was mostly a table setting patch in terms of the story.
Yep. So it begins as they all do at the Rising Stones, and the Scions have been settling back into their normal bodies, which is good. And they're ready to discuss what's going to happen moving forward. Midway
we had
through,
this entire campaign against Garlemald that kind of got put on hold while we had to go save the first.
yep. I mean, and there were people that were continuing to monitor it, but now they're going to be able to see what they can add, to the table, and hopefully continue to push on. Lise joins us halfway through, and she's very happy to see everybody. And but she reports that talks about the civil war breaking out in the Empire. All that lovely. Everybody's fighting over the throne. That's basically open for whoever to take at this point, and
Open civil war.
Yep. And we've been invited to talk with the Alliance in Alamigo. The others go, but we go with Grahatia and Alice to continue looking into this cure for tempering.
It's really sweet that she never forgot about Gabu during that entire time.
Well, they were setting up for this because she realized that what they've done to get themselves back to the source may have a lot to do with being able to figure out how to take care of this tempering that's been happening for years.
Like, it's been a part of our setting for so long, ever since the Beast Tribes learned about summoning. We had that ever-present threat of tempering.
Exactly. Well, for everybody except those with the echo.
Yeah, so effectively everyone.
Yeah. So we go and decide to go take a trip to Azizla.
A place where we haven't been in a very long time.
Very true. And Grahatia has never been to.
One of the things I do appreciate about FF14 is just how much it's willing to involve the locations, not just like a quick dip back, but hey, yes, we went to this new location, we've got this set of new zones, but they're still part of this whole interacting story, and we're not going to say, oh, that was last expansion, we don't go there anymore.
Yeah.
They're still really front and center in the story.
Because
yeah, you need to make sure that you continuously utilize the assets and resources you have in these types of games, because if you're wanting to continue to bring people within the game and keep it moving, you're going to need to be able to go back to some of those old locations and make them relevant.
And it just kind of feels more like an actual world if it's not instead of just okay, here's a discrete chunk, here's another discrete chunk, this is the new chunk, and we're kind of ignoring those. And instead it's more like, okay, here's an actual world with all the stuff going back and forth. It's all well integrated.
I think the best part about this introductory quest to the storyline was the fact that Tataru gets to take us on her pink airship.
that she built herself.
Yep.
The woman after my own heart. Do you know how much time I have spent in my company workshop? I have assembled multiple submersibles solo, thank you.
Oh, buddy, that's
hey.
There's so many other things to do in this game.
We're adjusting my medication. It's fine.
But yes, so we go for a flight on the Bonanza.
Great name for it, by the way. Tataru, always looking for that big score.
Yep. So we make it to Azizla, and we head to the information terminal that can hopefully help us unlock the secrets behind primal tempering.
It turns out that Grahatia's time as a Crystal Exarch, connected into the Crystal Tower with all of the knowledge of Ancient Allag, means that he has a practically encyclopedic knowledge of odd little tidbits of Ancient Allag knowledge. So the entire reason we're even there was because of this memory of, oh, hey, there was some research relating to tempering that they did. Let's go pull that up.
Yeah, and they find that there was a report called Iconic Corruption, but the data has been deleted from the system. But it was written by a researcher named Owen, and he used to live in the Hemisphere over in the Beta Quadrant. So Let's go check it out.
Another Final Fantasy III deep cut there. One of the locations in that game being the Tower of Owen.
So we make our way over, and it's been in lockdown since basically since the end of the Allied Empire, and
5,000 years.
And the nodes that are out there are basically for keeping us from entering the Habisphere. But again, Grahatia's encyclopedic knowledge comes in handy. Remember reading something about the fact that so much concentrated lightning ether building up in the area would cause issues with the different nodes and cause power outages. So he formulates an idea to go find a lightning crystal with a lot of ether built into it and use that to short the system and cause a reboot.
There's a really sweet moment there while you've all gone off searching for the lightning ether where he meets up with you and talks a little bit more about... We've always interacted with him as the Crystal Exarch, not as much as Grahatia, and getting to talk a little bit about his anticipation of getting to adventure with this person he's always respected. It takes a little moment aside for that, makes some callbacks to that first meeting we had back in the Crystal Tower raid days. It was a really nice moment.
Yeah, it was kind of cute. It was a little awkward to me, but then again, Grahatia is kind of awkward.
Everything about that adorable cat boy is awkward as shit.
And that's why most people love him, I guess.
Like looking down and his ears like flying. It's like, oh, it's so cute.
And then so we short circuit the system, get it to reboot, and Grahatia is able to go in there and retrieve the node from Owen's room. It's password protected. And there's an interesting little interlude where they try to figure out what the password is, and LSA tries, well, why don't you just use the password? And then the node kind of gives her the whole...
The amount of times I have seen people who should know better using something like that as their password, I seriously expected that was about to work. And I thought it was going to be a subtle snipe at people who've had to deal with that. And then it just escalated.
I thought that their response to that, as an IT person, was spot on. Know your place, handmaiden.
How many times have you wanted to say something like that to a...
Oh my god. It was beautiful. I loved it. Like I said, as an IT guy, thank you, SE.
Not gonna lie, I was half sure that LSA was about to start blasting that thing.
Yep, but we kept it from blasting it, and we brought it back to the stones. What we had happen after that was quite interesting. They end up deciding to utilize Magitech to basically hack the Gibson. And Sid brings in just an absolute shit ton of Magitech computers and other hardware to try and brute force into the this node. And
like supercomputer right there.
And they almost blew everything up. I mean, they were using ice crystals to try and keep it cool. They didn't have liquid nitrogen, so you gotta do something to super cool.
What was that Hosoda movie, Summer Wars, where they put the computers in one of the rooms of the house and then just put ice blocks around it with fans? Same idea.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of a nod to using cryogenic cooling in a lot of the supercomputers that we have now, so to get superconducting things to work. But the password, I believe, ended up being freedom.
Yes. Which also ended up being another deep cut reference type thing, so that was a nice touch.
So we were able to find Owen's his research paper. Talks about everything that they had learned regarding iconic corruption, how it the influence of the each of the different icons would cause not only changes in their attitudes, but with given enough exposure to their ether, it would actually cause physical changes. And
we have actually seen some amount of this before. You might remember the poor captain in Sastasha Heart who's been mutated by repeated exposure to Leviathan's ether.
and he believed that they could reverse the damage to their mind, but he knew that there was no way to reverse the physical changes that had taken place. But Xande did not want to have anything to do with that, so his
I mean, if you can undo tempering, that removes a lot of the reason for the continued war against the summoning tribes of the world.
Yep. But he didn't want to go about that, and his funding was pulled, actually. So that was kind of a sad thing that we were so close, but I believe they were actually able to figure out what he wanted to use to try and make this work, and G'rahatia was able to figure out the magic involved.
So, because they'd used the supercomputing array to get the password, and it's at this point that they say, okay, now we want to actually work out the magic, for which they run into it again, and this ended up being an even more complex problem. This is there were actually a couple uses of the Ironworks computing apparatus, but this was the one that was the full-on massive solving, kind of the equivalent,
yes, you're right.
the SETI at home thing where you can like download it and it does like the sky scanning, or that folding at home with the protein analysis stuff.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Pretty much that, to try to work out this insanely complex magic spell.
Yep, that's right. That's what it was. They were able to find the password relatively easily, but yeah, it was trying to figure out the magics that took a long time, and they brought it to the brink of everything just melting down, and they ended up everything ended up shutting down, but not before they were able to figure it out.
Side note on that, a lot of that computer apparatus, not just shut down, but it seems full on like fried out. A lot of that was the same apparatus that in another history would have been used to work out the calculations to allow the crystal tower to make its sojourn across the rift.
Mm-hmm.
So they did go ahead and seal off that option, take out the equipment that we need in order to take care of that particular hanging plot thread. We don't have to worry about, oh, why couldn't they just work this out and then do this again? So nice little sealing off of a potential plot thread there. In the
always
process.
remake those though.
Yeah, but like given how much of that was like, that's not going to be cheap. That's not going to take time. Maybe it could get remade, but unlikely in our lifetime.
No, you're right, but it is.
I mean, if you just say, "Hey, the future you use these computers for this, why don't you do that now?" Then they could have jump-started the process.
Okay.
So taking out that entire, oh, hey, here's this time-traveling, space-traveling crystal tower thing, probably kind of important plot-wise. Otherwise, who knows when that would have come back to haunt us.
Yep. Now, once we have gotten the magic for curing tempering, that's only part of the solution. The other part is we actually need to make sure to how did that work? There was two parts involved with this. One of them is the magic, and the other one has to do with the familiars.
There's a kind of a dual problem going on, and of course a lot of this is just plot justification for why they need to do the next things, but the idea that you've got this aspecting of the ether pushing in that direction, but then you also have like kind of the mindset, the memories, all the things of which, and without healing one without the other doesn't actually cure the tempering, because the other one just kind of like each one supports the other, so if you just cure one, the other kind of brings it back. You need to somehow address both problems simultaneously, the incorrectly aspected ether and the kind of memories and mindset and mental constructs that are driving them this way. So there's kind of two different things, as I said, each one reinforcing the other, and one of the things that has gotten in the way of that solving it has been that you have these two things supporting each other and needing to address both simultaneously.
Yep, and I believe what they end up doing is they put that both of those pieces together in a proxy familiar. So they go to visit Gabu and see if they can make this work. Now, if G'rahatia had still been at the Crystal Tower back on the first, he could have drawn Aether from that to do this. However, he had to lean on Alphino and Y'shtola to help with enough ether to imbue the Porksy with the magic, and then Alizé had already imbued it with the other half, and then they took that, and after some time they were able to successfully bring Gabu back, which was very nice.
And there was a couple of really good scenes of the three of them all channeling and doing the like spirit bomb channel type thing going on.
Yeah, the idea that, again, establishing that this is not a simple process. This is something that requires a huge amount of power.
Mhm.
One of the things that you need to have is why can you not just like, okay, pop the next, pop the next, pop the next. This is something that's still a lot of work. You're doing this massive scale readjustment to a person's ether, both in terms of its elemental alignment and in terms of a lot of these aspects of their memory and personality.
And the fact that they ended up using Gabu for this, his tempering was for the most part on the weaker side. He wasn't fanatical about Titan. His personality traits were kind of pushed dormant.
Yeah, it was just like kind of catatonic.
Yeah. But I mean, the influence was still there. It was keeping him from being himself. So, but the fact that they were able to do this proved that the theory that was initially started by Owen and then confirmed through Magitech and Gratia believing in it enough shows that we were able to get it taken care of. So now we need to figure out a more efficient way to create these little healing porksies, so to speak, because it's very inefficient to channel in individually each time when there's so many. Go ahead.
Especially with how exhausted everybody was after trying to channel just the one that we did.
Yep. So we decide we need to come up with a better way to imbue these porksies with the magic, and who's better at familiars than Master Matoya?
Sweep, sweep, sweep.
Yeah. I love Matoya. She's an absolutely awful individual, and I love her so much.
I mean, that snark, that beautiful snark.
And she puts up with none of her former students' bullshit at all. And it's magical.
So we go talk with Matoya, and we get a nice little snarky exchange between Matoya and Y'shtola, especially when Alphino decides to spill the beans about using her name.
Oh my god, and everybody but him was like about ready to just like, dude, are you for real right now? And Y'shtola's like, shit, I wasn't gonna tell her. And he's like, what'd I do? And you can tell that everybody wants to just smack him in the head as hard as humanly possible. Don't use someone else's name when you're on an alternate isekai world, by the way. It doesn't go well.
Well, and the assumption that, Matoya will definitely see that as like a compliment and a mark of respect and not be at all worried about her grandchild.
Yeah.
Or not even necessarily care that much, but just unable to resist the chance to take Y'shtola to task for literally anything.
Yeah.
All right. So we then unlock the new dungeon for the patch, and I love it.
It's so good.
I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite dungeons. The music is just so on point. The version of Matoya's cave theme that we get in there is just so lovely.
The remix.
Yeah.
And then it loops, and it has all of the chord progressions through it, but it doesn't necessarily just like, oh, we're just listening to a remix of an NES track. No, we're not. We're going through and we're hearing, hey, this is Matoya's theme, but we've already done the Anti-Tower. We've already been in her cave. We've already heard this theme in a couple different spots. This is a new way of utilizing it, showing we're not in this dungeon to... It's not Belsar's Wall, right? It's not the Hero's Gauntlet. We're not trying to get to the end with a purpose. This isn't Cutter's Cry or any of the early dungeons where we're there sort of as a we don't quite trust you yet level of quest. This is a storytelling dungeon, and it's we have to do a thing, and in order to do that thing, we have to go through this dungeon and do a whole bunch of pieces inside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we get to go have a party together, and we get to talk to the frogs, and we get to turn on all these aspected crystals. And by the way, you're gonna get lava thrown at you. Good luck.
It's like the equivalent of a sip and paint.
I hate so much how accurate that is.
Also, I need to throw in about the music. Someone made the comparison, and I can't unhear it now. It is Matoya's Cave if it were a Banjo-Kazooie level.
Mm.
You know, Seyrr, I'm a little bit upset with you. Just a little bit.
Uncomfortable truths. That's what I deal in.
I need the kazooie sound effect at the end of every time we go through a portal to finish one of the pieces.
But
Aurori says love it. I also had somebody in a run like 2 days ago that before we got to the final piece where we got the cauldron activated, they just hit return and bounced all the way to the front. Didn't walk up with us. So like the three of us did the rest of them, and they were already waiting at the final boss line.
yeah, that's actually become the new thing. It saves like 20 seconds.
It does, but it's if you don't know why people are doing it and you're the one that doesn't, it's not great. Thankfully, it was only that one guy that did it, so the other three of us just ran through normally.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that it continues on. I mean, there's nothing that you really need to do at the end except go through the portal. So
no. And you just have to go past that one threshold so that the flag hits and it activates, and after that, yeah, you're good to go.
Exactly. But yeah,
I also there was one tiny little touch that I just really loved. I don't know if there's a good way for you to put a picture or a screenshot on the stream just for a moment.
Well, unless I have it.
I'm going to go ahead and throw it in the host channel.
Anyway.
Yeah, we'll skip that for now, but it's cute. You can copy paste it into the Twitch chat if you want.
Sure. So yeah, this is clearly a place used by Matoya, and of course that means it's also going to be used by her students. And so there was one tiny little touch that I just really loved. I'll go ahead and throw the link into the Twitch chat for you all. There we go.
It is cute. I will say that.
So much longer than it needed to. But yes, it's a very well-made dungeon. I'm still sad that we're only at one per patch now, but I'm also glad that the ones that we're getting is stuff like this, where they are fun and unique and interesting and well built, as opposed to 3 versions of mini boss, boss, 5 mobs between each one, run until you hit a wall. Because that gets old after about 5. Yeah, and we have like 30 of those.
I think the bosses were, or the sub bosses were well done, especially like the little the Nixie, the second mini boss.
Oh, it took me a frustrating long time to figure out the mechanic for the DPS check bit of like actually getting tossed up onto the cloud.
Oh, that took me just one try, fortunately, but
yeah, it was a little embarrassing. Honestly,
the Mudman one took me a couple of tries to get the mud balls to go through properly. When they spawned, when Mudmen spawned in there, I thought you had to hit them with the ball to knock them out. Nope.
Oh, yeah, that's bad, bro.
That one was first try for me, so I do kind of appreciate that both of us struggled, but with different bits.
And then the Mother Porksy fight was also very good.
That one was really good just because you had to move around a lot, because you had to pay attention, because if you screwed up, there was ways to get out of it. You could make a couple of mistakes in the fight. Like the suction thing is the thing I'm thinking of the most, where you're trying to dodge all the AoEs that are showing up randomly.
Yeah, you can.
But there's enough. You can mess up a handful of times, and it's not that bad. Don't get hit, but you can slide forward to get rid if you're in too many AoEs at once. You can move forward closer, but then you can't run back towards the wall.
Yep.
You have a certain horizontal motion that you can do. It's fun.
It had a certain whimsicality to it, which we saw that we talked about that for the rest of the dungeon. But I was really happy that that last one just felt like whimsical and chaotic, and everyone's just kind of throwing it together. And is it in the kiln long enough? Have we got it working? Oh God, what's happening now? Like those other dungeons that we mentioned, those big story ones, it was this big tool. Just we're fighting for our lives. We're fighting to prevent this terrible thing from happening. And this is just like, oh God, we've set a fire in the workshop. What are we doing now?
But we also get to we're taking something serious, right? We're taking wait, I've recognized that armor. Why is she here? I thought we killed her and then we just move on like nothing happened. We take these big, super huge, dense pieces of storyline and narrative and fighting, and we're taking that mechanic at its core level, taking it out and saying, let's do a dumb, stupid thing with a flying pig. And it's so much fun to not go into a dungeon. Yeah, sure, you can wipe, you can mess up, you can kill your tank, whatever. It's still a dungeon, it's still a video game. But there is a certain, again, whimsy and whimsicality of just, who cares? We're doing a dumb thing today, and it's fine. It's a dungeon. We're going to be out of here in 22 minutes. We're going to get a bunch of gear we're never going to use, and it'll be fun. Let's do it.
It's a good time. Once we beat the Mother Porksy and basically we beat her into submission, so to speak, Alisei is able to imbue her magics to it, and Grahati is able to put the anti-tempering magic in it. So that way, we just need to create. It will now create more minions, more familiars that are ready to go. We just need to imbue them with additional ether to do their job.
That was kind of one of the big things. Like, okay, we've got this great method. I mean, to rip from the headlines, it's really great that you discovered the vaccine for this horrible disease. Now, how do you make enough for everyone?
Yep,
You could just have Alisei and Grahati running around with one Porksy to cover the entire realm's tempering needs.
And doing the imbuing every single time they need to. Whereas this way, they're already primed. They just need the fuel, the energy to be able to do the untempering. Yeah, and it's great. We get 3 new Porksies and to start with.
Supply lines, bitches, logistics.
Yep. So we take our good news back to Limsa, and we get an audience with the Admiral, and she's just
oh yes, this is fun.
Ecstatic that we've been able to take care of this. But and she wants to now make sure that they can restore peaceful negotiations with the Beastmen. However, a number of the other pirate captains are not in agreement. Namely, the Bloody Executioners and their new leader, Sicard.
A temporary interim leader.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got designs on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was always the captain's right hand man, but since the captain took ill, somebody had to take over the reins.
Yeah, and it's hard not to have sat in that position for so long, to be the one in charge, and not to start bringing a little bit of your own agenda to the table.
Yep. But anyway, the Executioners have been making Gil hand over fist, yet none of the other captains really know how.
Yeah, I mean, after the was it the Galadian Accord? I think the main way that the various pirate crews made their living was to become privateers, only attacking Garlean ships.
Yep,
with the ongoing civil war, there's a lot fewer of those out on the water. Things are kind of concentrated a bit closer to home, so everyone else has been having to tighten their belt, start expanding into other things. With the Executioners, they're still making the privateering business work.
Or are they?
Yeah.
So we go talk with the other pirate captains, Carvalane and the lady from the Sanguine Sirens.
Roswin.
There you go.
God, she's so thirsty for him.
He's so oblivious.
Yeah.
It's unclear oblivious or just being like, you know what? If she can't come out and say it, I'm not going to make it easy for her.
No,
Who
it's
knows?
oblivious.
Yeah, probably.
It's oblivious.
It feels like it dances on that line.
The Sanguine Sirens have been fending off Beastmen attacks to the on the ships bringing in produce, so they get first pick of stuff on that. So that's been keeping them happy. The Carvelane's group has no idea why the executioners are doing so well, but
They've been working in the spice trade anyway, so they've got their support there, though it's not as lucrative.
Yep, they're doing what they need to do. But Alphino noticed something very interesting. At the same time that they started making all the money, the executioners, the crystal prices in Limsa plummeted.
I'm a little bit curious. There's no clear reason that those should be connected.
So he's been he had Hoary Boulder go out and take a look at the different beast tribes to see what's going on there. And even though the everything, what's the word I want here?
So Limsa Lominsa did have, like, the kind of formal government of Limsa Lominsa had a very clear treaty with the Kobolds and with the Sahagins about, like, non-aggression, respecting space, all of that.
Yeah, that didn't last very long, unfortunately. So tensions have been rising. That's what I was looking for. The tensions have been rising between the Beastmen, but even so, there have been no primal summonings. What do they need for primal summonings? Crystals.
A shit ton of crystals.
So if they don't have the crystals, have they been stolen from, are they been stealing crystals from the Beastmen?
Yeah.
So we go and Alphino sets up a meeting with one of the with the vendor to try and figure out where these crystals are coming from. Gratia brings up a great point. He's recognizable. Grahatia is not recognizable and insists that he take over. And he almost blows it because he's just so damn awkward. Oh, but
he's trying so hard. He is freshman speech class day one levels of awkward, and it's super bad.
If it wasn't for that staff on his back with a giant crystal, it would have all fallen apart. So thank you, Tataru, for making that staff. Oh, God.
So again, Tataru is saving our butts.
So the news story is Grahati is a weaponsmith that focuses on crystal weapons and needs a lot of crystals for a giant order that he's been given. And he's willing to pay whatever price as long as the quality's good. So it takes him to the caves north of Limsa, and we follow behind. We think we're being sneaky, and yeah, they basically all but say they've been stealing these crystals from the kobolds. And just as we are, hear that saying, we are basically, we're not the only ones being sneaky. Sicard sneaks up behind us and says, "Hey, what are you doing here? Gig's up." And
we're not that good at being subtle.
Well, Alphino's not that good at being subtle, and
not like Rohati is much better.
No, but basically, the jig is up. Sicard recognizes us and Alphino immediately and is like, what are you doing here? Like, well, we just want to know why how you're getting all your money. We figured it out now, and this is why you don't support the peace talks. So basically, we just basically end up then trying to set up a meeting between Sicard and the Admiral so they can just talk it out. See if they can come to some sort of compromise or agreement. And he's like, "Oh yeah, we'll do that. We'll even provide the place. Just come join us on the Astalicia." And the Admiral's fine with that. So we take that news back, and the admiral's like, yeah, I'll be there. So we go to their boat, and basically it all comes down to they're scared. Pirating is all they know, and they don't want to change. They're making money, and that's what they want. They just want to keep making money.
What are we if we aren't pirates? I mean, you can imagine, like, God, there are so many parallels to a lot of real world issues in this one. Like, that just kept leaping out at me. The idea of you have this community that knows this old way of life, that knows this old industry that is in its own way dying. But the idea of like retraining, changing to this entire thing, it feels out of reach. It feels impossible. And so instead looking to preserve that way of life at all costs, even if it starts having this negative impact on other communities. Side note, we've already explored a little bit the idea of like, okay, what does the moniker Beast Tribe even mean? We've done that a bit with the Beast Tribe quest, especially on the first one. We start seeing even the Lalafels are a Beast Tribe there.
About time to recognize that.
So this seemed like a kind of natural extension of exploring that idea. What exactly is the meaningful difference? Is there a meaningful difference in what we call a beast tribe? And they didn't justifying this treatment, this pretty much coming in, stealing all this stuff by saying, oh, well, it's like they're not people, it's a beast tribe. It's fine if we take their stuff, no one cares. And I mean, to a certain degree, no one did. The beast tribes weren't going to go to Lim Salimans and say, hey, some of your people are stealing this.
Nope, they're just going to fight back.
Yeah, because what are we gonna do? The kobolds come in and say, hey, people are stealing our whatevers, and you'd be like, okay, we gave you a section to blow up a bunch of stuff because that's all you guys want to do. You are the 687th Legion or whatever. Like, you're not super helpful. Why do we care about you? And then they're like, but if you don't care about us, then why did you give us an opportunity to try to change? Why did you give us land to play on? Why did you say this area can be for the Sahagin? It's okay. Why did we do that if we actively didn't care?
Do you even believe
it starts spiraling out of control very quickly?
Do you even believe that this is a separate thing, or that's like, okay, they probably know about it and they don't care because we know what they think of us?
Well,
and you have to prove that we don't feel that way. And how do you do that?
Yeah,
that's not an easy answer.
We've been setting up the pieces for a lot of these questions, and so seeing it brought clearly to the fore and examined in this really direct way, especially because, again, you can get a lot of fun parallels to real-world issues on that, was a really interesting and I felt like satisfying. Like, that's one of the things I love so much about the story, taking it and turning it into this really thoughtful thing.
Yeah. I really liked how Merlwyb said that, piracy is how we survived getting here. But since we have been helping our neighbors and doing trade and commerce, we've been more successful and more profitable and more, we've been doing better with that than we ever did with piracy. And she and the others are ready to move on. But these guys just, since they found an easy buck, they just want to keep doing that. And
they're also scared.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't they be? We know swords. We know fighting. We know theft. What do you mean I have to learn commerce?
We fear change.
Yeah, they fear change. And that's what it comes down to.
It's not an unreasonable thing to fear.
No,
it's
not at all.
It becomes crippling, but in and of itself, that's not unreasonable.
But basically, it all comes down to he challenges Merlwyb to a duel, and she accepts. And it basically, Merlwyb doesn't want to kill him. Their first shots end up careening and hitting each other, and then they go off. And the kid misses his second shot, and Merlwyb shoots him in the leg. It's like, okay, you're done. And he's like, no, if you're gonna do this right, you're gonna do it right. You are going to finish this, and then another shot rings off. His gun flies out of his hand, and we see a giant Rogadin walk up. And this Rogadin happens to be the captain. This is Captain what's his name? Hilfear. the actual captain of the Bloody Executioners. And he's like, you guys are young, you are smart, you can do whatever you put your mind to. We don't need to be pirates anymore. The Admiral is the leader. If she wants to go this way, we follow. End of story. And this is coming from a lifelong pirate who spent his entire life, you know, on the seas.
I mean, life like that, you know which way the wind's blowing.
Mm-hmm. And he knows that the right way to go is, you know, to follow the Admiral into the larger ocean and not stay in their small little pond where they're making a few dollars here and there.
This entire sequence reminded me of like why I still am proud to follow the Maelstrom and Merylwib. So badass.
Yep.
Strong.
I was like, this is a reason I picked it in, I think it was 2.0. I think I started somewhere else in 1.0.
I started I started with the Adders, and then I moved over to the Flames, and then the last one actually for me was the Maelstrom because I knew I'd stick with it. You know.
Also, side note, there were a couple lines in there that at least one of the lore mongers is taking as support for her preferred ship of Merylwib and Con E Senna, which I have to say,
God.
come on, it's
dear.
great.
Anyway, so
there's a joke there about Merylwib having to be included because she has a ship, but I don't know where it is, so you'll have to find it on your own.
Anyway.
God, so badass.
So now, with everybody united, moving on.
Yeah, the name of one of those quests and like the entire sequence of the Great Ship Vilbrand.
Yep, that's what we're on right now.
Yeah.
So now we want to unite the crew of the Great Ship Vilbrand. At this point, we've unified all of the different pirate factions, but we also now have the Beast Tribes. They are also an integral part of the Vilbrand ecosystem, the Sahagin and the Kobolds. And we're going to start by talking with the Kobolds and see if we can't usher in a little bit of peace. Merylwib knows they fucked up hard with the accord that they had with the Kobolds. They basically broke the agreement that they had, and that's the biggest reason why.
It was written. It was always a bit ambiguous, and instead of like correcting it and making clear, people over years and generations, whatever, just leaned into that ambiguity and took advantage of it. One could make comparisons to real life treaties with various indigenous groups, for instance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And well, she knows that they fucked up, and she wants to try and make it right. And they propose, now that we have this cure for tempering, we can maybe go to their leader, who is obviously tempered, and see if we can't, try and talk some sense into them after we have removed Titan's influence.
This was always going to be a hard sell. Like, even before that, you've got generations of distrust, of action and counteraction, revenge, and all that. But like, this was always going to be a hard sell, but the tempering made it impossible. It's only now that we have this cure for tempering that it's even something worth considering.
Yep. So we go in and we meet with the leader of the Second Order, I think is who it is, and
the second, Patriarch of the Second Order, yes. Knowing the whole time that they are going to see this as a golden opportunity.
Yep, and that's exactly what this was. They never wanted to talk. They wanted to get the leader there and summon Titan and kill them. Fortunately, Merylwib knew this, was able to stop the summoning from happening, and then I can't think of his name, Mistbeard. He used to be Mistbeard.
God, I can never pronounce his name properly. It's Admiral...
I still just remember him as Mistbeard.
Commander.
Einzar Slafferson.
Slafferson, there we go. He uses a trick that he had to basically incapacitate the patriarch, while we then use the Porksy to try and remove the tempering. Now,
That's the thing throughout. We don't want to. They're coming for our heads, but we don't want to kill them. Like,
Not at
there's
all.
going to be no chance of making a peace agreement, even if they are untempered, if we've killed some in the process.
Yep. So we are trying to just hold them back while the tempering process or detempering process is taking place. So we get this really good fights sequence that we go through. It was tricky. There was multiple parts to this. We had to go through 4 different phases of detempering before this actually was completed, utilizing all of the ether from everybody. And people, when I played through it, I had people fall. I got through it in the first try, but I was scared that if you lose somebody, you might fail. But fortunately, that wasn't the case. I think I had Slafferson fall over in faint. But
I don't remember who fainted in mine. Somebody did, but yeah, that was a fun little fight.
Especially the section when you give your ether at the end there, and then you're trying to survive with 1/10 of your hit points.
That sucked, by the way. That sucked a lot.
So yeah.
I was in as a warrior, but oof.
Yeah.
But I mean, going from 140 to 14.
There was a certain feel of desperation to the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
We went in with something that everyone says, like, we know there's a pretty good chance that this is going to kill some or all of us, but it is also the only hope we have to go forward. There's a certain capacity to it that I loved.
Yep. So we succeed in detempering the second patriarch, or the patriarch of the second order, and he sees what he's done, and he is in disbelief.
I mean, he had sacrificed his own kin for Titan summonings.
Mm-hmm. And Gabu comes in and is like, you know, you might be able to explain this better, Seyrr.
Oh.
Or do you remember this part?
I remember. It is a really powerful thing, and I feel like any attempt to describe it doesn't do it justice.
But what ends up happening is we are still totally untrusted by Zada, the patriarch, and
even free of the tempering, there's still that doesn't erase the generations of betrayal and reprisal, the treatment as second or third or whatever class citizens. Like the fact that there had been treaty after treaty that was misinterpreted and pushed the edges of, and there's no reason to believe that this one will be any different, which is absolutely fair on his part.
I thought the part where Merlwyb places her pistol at his feet and puts her life in his hands. The fact that she trusted, put her life in his hands, and then
I don't think she necessarily even trusted him. I think she expected that, hey, this may honestly end in my death, but if that is what is necessary to show how firmly committed I am to this course of action. Like, just from a game theory perspective, you show your commitment to a course of action by making a sacrifice, by doing something you can't undo, and handing a loaded weapon to your enemy and encouraging them to point at you. You can't really undo that. What choice they make with that is up to them, but that's something where you've put it outside of your hands. Just from a game theoretic perspective, that's how you show you're serious.
Yep. And Gabu coming in and basically pleading his case for us is what put the patriarch over the tipping point. He doesn't trust us, but he trusts Gabu.
I really like that. The idea is like the recognition, and we saw this so much, the recognition of the captain of Astalicia, of the patriarch of the Kobold Order, that hey, we are these old hands, have been in this for so long, it's hard for us to know this other way, but these younger people, they have this potential, and so even if we can't necessarily follow them, we want to believe that they can walk this path, and so we're going to trust them on it. And having that echoed both with the Limson Luminsons and the Kobolds, there was a lot about this that like practically brought me to tears, just the power of the storytelling in it. I really loved it.
It was very strong. But so we leave the Ogomoro, but something else is up.
I do appreciate that we did get to keep Merylwib though. Like it would have been a really powerful thing, but also we need Merylwib. She's great.
Yeah, she's one of the best. A breathless Maelstrom officer finds us and says that a strange tower has been found outside of the floating city. So we go check it out, and we see this ominous tower just pulsing with energy. And
yeah, he even mentions that it wasn't there when he started his daily patrol. So we've got this huge structure that apparently appeared or was erected either under this huge tower or just in a matter of moments.
You said erect.
But so not just that we have this strange tower that's doing who knows what, but that apparently whatever was able to put it there was able to place it in an extremely short amount of time.
And a link pearl communication just moments later to Merylwib says that these are appearing all over Eorzea. And from what we learn later, not just Eorzea, but also over in all the way as far as Alamigo. We go to the Alamigan quarter, and we see one outside of there as well. And it's at that point when all of the Scions are together in the courtyard area up there that we're visited by a hooded asshole, for lack of a better term. Holy shit, is that guy a creep. Fandaniel flies in on what he calls Lunar Bahamut, shoots fire in the garden, the menagerie, and yeah, he goes on this tirade, saying that, hey, he wants to kill us, but Lord Xenos really wants to play with us some more. Throws down the gauntlet, basically, and that these towers are kind of his way of destroying everything. It's pretty fucked up.
Fandaniel is so creepy. I'm so not happy that he's back.
Yeah, for those who may not know, Fandaniel is now inhabiting Asahi's body.
Also a problem. Because that dude was also creepy as shit.
Yeah, so you got creepy on creepy. And the faces that we're getting out of that the engine is producing to express this creepiness is just even more creepy. But yeah,
I am looking forward to finding out more about what's going on with that fucker and about what little remnants of the Ascians we have, but at the same time.
and when we see that in the after cutscenes, when they'd send a detachment to go check out the tower in the locks, but we go back to the Rising Stones and we exchange news and
time to check in.
Yep, the Porxies that we sent to Ul'dah and Gridania, so they'll be able to do some of their own detempering, and hopefully we'll be able to start improving things.
bring it to this mass production point where it's not just a couple intrepid people going around detempering one person at a time, having like this mass administration, being able to make a real meaningful dent in it.
We learned from.
I wonder if they're going to use this to get. What if they're going to use this to get rid of beast tribes for Realm Reborn areas?
I don't think so, in part because you still have the entirety of Realm Reborn, and like I could see you have like some follow-up quests, and it's not like they're going to integrate into the cities overnight. I mean, a lot of them are still going to have their own cultures. I don't think they're going to get rid of it entirely.
No.
But we might see more appearances of various ones. We might have an even more united Eorzea than we had before.
Which is kind of the hope. I mean, there have always been the factions that are friendly, you know, and even if they're not tempered, I would still say that the other factions may still be a little bit more on the hostile side.
People are
Again, for the Gabu issue of like, hey, I don't necessarily, we still don't trust you after years of dealing with this. Even if I'm no longer tempered, we still don't trust you. And that goes for everybody. That goes for Sahagin. That goes for Ixali. That goes for everyone.
Amalja, yeah, everybody.
I'm trying not to bring out the real world parallels again, but there's some real world parallels.
We learned from Kryl that apparently these towers are even going as far as Yangsha. So they're basically everywhere that we've been. And with
at this point, I just say it's kind of a worldwide thing.
Well,
that's what it seems like, at least.
At this point, yeah, it's seeming like it. Kryla and Tatrud are gonna go find Astinian. Yay for Astinian. That poor guy. I feel sorry for him.
Hey, buddy, you're finally done doing things. Come help us again.
Well, I mean, he is probably one of the better choices at this point with his dealings with Nidhogg. You know, he probably has a lot to say.
True.
And the fact that
Kryl and he was tempered by Nidhogg.
Kryl and Tataru are probably the best at finding him because, well, that's what they seem to love to do. I mean, you remember the story, don't you? that Stormblood story that we had.
Oh, where they just kept finding. Yeah. God, Stormblood was so good.
But yeah, so that's basically where we're at. Then there is an after a post MSQ scene where we learn that these were sent out by the by Fandaniel and by what's his face Xenos to basically, like I said, to destroy the entire world, but not before Xenos has the opportunity to play with us again.
Ew.
Well, he wants to play.
He wants to have business with his bestie.
And then then there's the second scene where the crew that went out to investigate the one in the locks, they come back and they're kind of tempered, or one person comes back and is like quite different. And he starts to rush at everybody, and then it kind of cuts to black.
Yeah,
Is it a zombie apocalypse?
The invocation of Lunar Bahamut has me worried for a number of reasons.
So now we're kind of closing up. We're kind of closing up on the MSQ, at least for this patch.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of other places that we can yet go. I mean, we want to see what happens with not only we have relations to build with the kobolds, but we also have the Sahagin that we to deal with. We have all the other beast tribes in the other zones, trying to build trust back with at least some of the leadership to try and see if we can't move forward in a unified front, not only to live in peace and harmony, but to maintain what we have against the Empire.
And that's fine, but that's not happening in this patch.
It could happen behind the scenes, I suppose. I mean,
Possibly,
like I
but
said,
we don't actively play through it. We're out of quests. My MSQ says to be continued after this.
we do have like a potential 0.45 patch, and then we have the 0.5 patch.
Yeah, but those are different patches.
Oh yeah, we're up to date right now.
Yeah, that's what I said first,
Okay.
and now you're arguing with me
Sorry.
about it. That's why I didn't understand. I was like, what are you talking about? There is no more to this patch, dude.
I thought you were talking the expansion. Sorry.
Yeah,
No.
there's some side stories, but
I said patch, not expansion.
I misunderstood.
Yeah, no, there's lots of stuff that we can still do, but for this particular, for 5.4,
Yes, we're done.
our MSQ is like, okay, here's the next branch of, yeah, we have a bunch of beast tribes. Yeah, we have places to go and stuff to do. But for now, we get to sort of try to figure out, all right, cool, let's fix the beast tribes. What the hell is Fandaniel doing here? Okay, I guess we have to go find Astinian too. And then this is sort of the chapter close for the next one. It's a really good spot that gives us things to look forward to for 0.45 or 0.5, but it doesn't let us feel like we're in the middle of something.
How far?
It was actually timed pretty well.
How far do you think they're going to take it until we hit 6.0?
I don't think they're going to go very far. I honestly think this is going to be our like next little chapter of what we do. Is we spent all of Stormblood getting Alamigo and Doma, and at some level, we had to get our three nations back together. At some level, we had to get the guys in Foundation all coming with us too. Like, if we didn't have everyone allied, we weren't going to win. We spent a whole expansion allying everyone, and now we have beast tribes that we can start removing all their fanaticism and rebuilding the relationships that we want. Maybe we spend part of a expansion rebuilding our beast tribes and aligning them. So now, instead of just having the Eorzean Alliance, we have the Eorzean Alliance, the Eorzean Beastmen Alliance, and all 11 flags are flying as we go against the Empire in 6.4, 6.5. That'd be fun.
So you think that just might be a building a secondary storyline moving forward, or some of it might just be happening behind the scenes, and we'll get cutscenes as its progress.
I wouldn't mind it honestly just being a side story, and then we get all of these little, fun pieces on odd number patches or whatever.
So you think
we did a lot. One of the things that the entire thing of this was, hey, we're going to do this so that we can let other people start handling the work. Maybe we don't need to put out every fire ourselves.
That's actually very fair and very true. So you're thinking then the 5.5 is then going to focus mainly on Fandaniel and Xenos.
I think so.
Or setting up whatever the main thrust of 6.0 is going to be.
Exactly. As we discussed earlier, like at the end of, we're falling into comas. Gee, I wonder why. Like we set up that end piece so that we have at, X.0, we have a good turning point to jump into it. As opposed to the,
you mean create
well, where are we going now?
Create we need the rocket to the moon?
Something like that. Like we have to have that conflict for us to resolve. That's how storytelling works.
Yep.
But I'd like to see them do more with beast tribes, because again, the beast tribe quests that we have for Realm Reborn are out of date, irrelevant, don't get done by most new players. If they weren't done by older players, most people aren't going back and doing them. They're just not relevant. This is an opportunity to grab us older players that have been around for a while and run us through those areas again that we haven't been to. Again, we talked about it like an hour and a half ago. We use stuff over and over again. So let's go back to Aleport and run over the wall and go talk to the Sahagin. Let's have dialogue there. Let's build quest lines there. Let's change stuff that's going on. Let's change NPCs that are there so that we get a new experience, and so we're using stuff that we already had.
ideally, I would like to see them first revamp the quest systems that are already in existence there, so that way the old players who didn't run them and the new players can get the storyline, but it may be more condensed versions where, like what they did with the new beast tribes, it doesn't take nearly as long to max out your rank with those and get through the storyline.
I forgot that I was doing dwarves, and I did them for 4 more days, and then I was done. It doesn't take very long.
Whereas with the old beast tribes, it took weeks, literal weeks, to get through it.
To get what amount? A thing that you could then buy from that NPC that you were just going to buy from the market board anyway because it was faster.
Yeah, so if they increase the amount of points that they give out in those quests, I think it'll make things go much smoother. And it theoretically, even from a programming standpoint, shouldn't be difficult to change that number.
I like we basically have it now as like we have numbers of like you need 550 in order to get to the, no, none of that matters. It's 4. You do a day and then you start another day and you turn in 1 and then you jump up a level. It's just set it up that way.
Yep.
And I would like to see them go back and reuse it just because I don't give a shit about the Amalja, but they're really cool lore-wise, and their story is amazing, and the art that they have, and the gear that they're wearing, and the jewelry that they're wearing is so cool. I'm not doing Realm Reborn quests. They're just not worth the time most of the time.
But
by having this as a storyline piece for level 80/level 90, we can now say, well, we untempered all of these other not allied beastmen, and now they're coming in and they're doing some of the work that we would have been doing as those little side quests, and they can shorten it up a little bit.
Or
I want to see them do more.
Like I said, or if they simplify it, make it easier to get those levels, and then have that as a requirement to then continue on with an allied style beast tribe quests that you can then handle. But they need to make it more accessible. That's the first thing they need to do, is make the old ARR beast tribes more accessible for everybody,
so that we don't have to warp one place and then fly across the map like far. Like, it's not close by most of the time. Heavensward got better. Moghome had one right next to it, which was nice. What was the other one in Heavensward?
Well, there was the Mughals, there was the Vanu, and then there was the Vath, the Nath.
Was it the Vath or the Nath? I can never keep them straight, and I feel like that's low key racist.
I believe the Vath were the purple ones, and the Nath were the red ones. Or green ones.
That sounds right.
Green.
Vanu, Vath, Mughals, Kojin, Ananta, Namazu, Dwarves, Qatari, Pixies.
Oh man, we're probably gonna get our allied beast tribe quest next patch, aren't we?
Yeah, we will. That's generally in the 0.5.
I wonder if the first has an equivalent of the naked cat guy with the mask.
You know it does.
Oh god.
You know it does.
But yeah, let's go back. Let's grab, because I'm looking at the list right now. Amalja, Sylph, Kobold, Sahagin, and Ixal. Okay, Ixal's gonna be weird, let's be real. But like Sahagin and Kobold, we've already got the through lines on making those work and putting them into a narrative. Amalja and Sylph, we're gonna have to find a way to make that happen. But it's doable. So let's see what happens in the next patch, and let's see what happens in 6.0, because there's definitely some announcements, and they've said it in a few live letters and stuff over the last year and a half. We want to change more things. Everybody's currently working from their apartments. We'll get to it. This is low on the priority list of stuff to do in this game. We haven't gotten a Hildebrand quest in a while either. There's some stuff that got backburnered, for sure. Unbork 6-year-old beast tribe quest is definitely not top tier priority.
Yeah. But having them show up more in the things we do, like maybe in the hub area, they'll be like, okay, and here's the thing for like the 789th order irregulars, because those kobolds are pretty irregular.
Okay, so the Sapphire Avenue Exchange has a couple of Amalja running carts now. I'd be so down for that. It's subtle, but it's very good. Very reminiscent of Final Fantasy XII, where the Bunga were the ones running all of your like stores and stuff in town. Like, show that there are beast tribes. Show that not everybody is one of the 6 character classes or 6 races that you could pick at the start of character creation.
Yeah, it would be
Show
nice
that
if
the world evolves bigger.
if they brought that in. Yeah, I mean, there's a few that you can see some beast tribes within the city states, but yeah, you don't see very many.
No. Have the sylphs float around the flower gardens in town. Just they don't need to do anything. They can just be there and be adorable.
All right, Seyrr, do you want to talk about the Sorrow of Werlyt?
Oh, sure. Because it's like, okay, things are looking hopeful of this. So let's go ahead and switch to our traumatized child mech pilot anime.
This was a very, very powerful story.
Yeah. So we go ahead and with receiving the call, we make our trip back to Turncliffe, which is kind of acting as our base of operations for staging things into the Werlyt area. And once we've arrived, Sid fills us all in on the situation about how they've discovered the newest weapon for the 7th Legion, the Emerald weapon. One of the concerns being that we do have another weapon that seems to be active now, but no one has seen any type of movements. No, like air movements, nothing moving across land. So the suspicion is that it's been transported by sea. Reasonable in order to complete its location and have a staging ground for launching into Eorzea, giving us options of either Castrum Occidens, that would be the one in eastern Lenosha, where we have the first foray into the binding coil of Bahamut, or Castrum Marinum, which you may remember as the one in the background at Cape Westwind. So we split up to go investigate. Take a submersible to Castrum Marinum. In our case, we've been sent there along with Gaius. And once we do reach it, we face off against the Emerald weapon, which, once again, we are faced with a pilot who activates the Oversoul system, fuses with the core of it, claiming that this is like a thing that's necessary. A few last heartfelt words to his friends that he won't be coming back to. And we are... So one thing, as a side note, was pointed out, the shapes of the various weapons also reference the shapes of the Garlean commanders' helmets that they're based on. That emerald weapon shape, that's the same as Gaius' helmet shape. There's lots of weird little aspects like that. And yes, this one is loaded with oversoul data of the Black Wolf's fighting style. So we end up facing off against a strange replication of Gaius. Still an open question about how exactly they obtained this data, given that Gaius had left long ago, and certainly, yeah, there's been questions throughout about where they're getting this data from.
And the fact that he's still alive.
Yeah.
The interesting thing with this, the commanders that we've gotten the oversoul data from, one of them disappeared 5 years ago in the when Bahamut attacked.
Yep. Slightly before that when we beat her up, but yes.
The next one, died up in Azisla, to what's his name? The last one of the triad.
Regula? Oh,
yeah, Regula.
Tazervon.
Yeah, Regula died to Zervon. Yep. And then now the fact that Gaius was thought to be dead in Castrum, but he's still alive. So where are they getting their data from? Is it coming? Does it have to do with the armor that they've been wearing? This Magitech armor?
There's a lot of weirdness about that. There's suggestion that there may have been some stuff gathered, but like, how long-ranging has this program been? Was it something where it was being gathered for other purposes? The fact that we have Nail Van Darnus going back like 5 years back to the original Meteor project, and they were still able to recover this stuff, really makes me wonder.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fight itself, especially once the Oversoul is activated and we have the battlefield transitioning to what we're told is Werlyt during the time of its invasion, this like blasted battlefield, smoking remnants and like houses on fire around. God, it was such a cool feeling. The music was a great track too. So just like really exciting thing, and while of course we have the Forsaken Child being fused with the armor, with the core of the Emerald weapon. But after the battle, Gaius, of course, is mourning the loss of its pilot, in this case, Rex, another one of the orphans he's raised. So this is now 3 of those orphans that have been lost to this project. And afterwards, we do meet up with Gaius's compatriots, who, after they arrived at Castra Marinum, finding nothing at Occidens, they were able to find Ali, another one of the orphans who had been locked in a cell. She seems to be she seems to go into shock at the sight of the Emerald weapon wreckage. We're able to get very little info out of her at that time, so we go ahead and return to Turncliffe to recover from the ordeal, try to get Oh, what's up, Klauss?
Before that, we do get that that Echo Vision, where we see Rex and Allie and the last one. Why can I not remember his name?
Alphonse?
Something like that. The 3 of them are talking before Rex actually goes into the Emerald weapon, and they're basically talking about why they're doing this and why Allie wants to know why she's not being one that's in piloting one of these, and they say that she has the most kind spirit, and they want to make sure that she is around when they are able to basically take this and free Werlyt from the Empire.
Yeah, this is the first we get a glimmering that while the Empire has this as this is their new weapon system they're going to use for this, that the orphans themselves have their own designs on it to be the pilots who will take over it, perfect it, and then seize control of it to liberate Werlyt.
Yep, exactly. And
so yeah, we've got a little bit more of a complicated motivation than we initially saw from them.
So they decided to put Allie in the cells to protect her from the upcoming battle, while Rex
also possibly to make sure that she can't go piloting anything herself.
Yep, and to make sure that she is safe and then isn't forced to become a pilot next.
Right.
Basically forces the last brother, the last one of the orphans, to be basically the next pilot, if that's the case. So.
Yep. We do get filled in a little bit more on some of that backstory, the treatment that the Garleans would give to those who are not pure-blooded, bruising and welts all over Allie's body in this case, which they say most likely inflicted by the Imperials that she worked under. Allie herself, once she does recover, fills us in on the present state of affairs, on the legatus of the 7th Legion, Valens von Varro, who she describes as jealous and cruel, willing to use any means at his disposal to achieve his goals, no matter how vile they may be. And she also does fill us in on Alphonse's dream to use the weapon project to break free from the Empire and establish a safe haven for those who wish to live in peace.
Yep. We also learn a little bit about Seyrr. She was also when she was a part of the military, how she was treated poorly as well, and so she really understands what Allie was going through on that. She tried to use her power to try and help her family, but ended up being ostracized by both sides, because while her father was Garlean, her mother was from Werlyt.
It's also strongly implied that father was a true blood, mother was not, and that father forced himself upon mother. This is a recurring thing we see with a lot of it. Half-blooded children born under brutal circumstances, a lot of them having this vision of somehow proving themselves, of somehow navigating this thin tightrope to seize glory or to seize this power and use it to kind of free their country. We saw that with Fordola way back in Stormblood.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do see this tragedy playing out time and time again.
Yep.
And yes, Seyrr herself. So we're getting a lot more of those details filled in about Gaius's companions, learning a little bit more about how he came to be traveling with them and about their own experiences. So yeah, we're getting learning a little bit more of the experience and motivations of the players in this tragedy. And Ali does fill us in on that plan that the orphans had to use the power of the weapons to free Werlyt. But she also no longer has any information on where he is. So we're going to have to go back to having our scouts go out, keep an eye out for further movements of the weapons. We once again are left in a position of waiting for them to make the next move.
Yep.
And that's pretty much where it leaves us delivering our report, heading back to Lion's Thing and being told to wait for the next one. But once again, we've learned a little bit more about the motivations and a bit about the cruelty of the Empire.
Well, don't forget the scenes after.
Yeah, we do have that, among other things, a testing sequence of a volunteer, we'll call him, being forced into a testing chamber similar to the core.
There's not only that, before that.
Yeah. Well, go ahead and mention your bit, because I was another.
Before that, we get the whole scene where Alphonse is in a detention chamber or a
Oh god, that was brutal. So we do see him with Legatus Van Valens, who is displeased and who has a number of his young proteges standing there with bars of metal with glowing ends held up high, like just waiting and instructing them to administer the proper punishments. We see these kids with hesitating hands move forward, pressing that glowing metal into Alphonse.
But Seyrr, this isn't punishment. This is treatment. They're burning the bad. Burn the bad.
Out of it. God, that entire thing was just unsettling.
He was creepy AF. Again, they use this engine for all these facial distortions is what this ended up being, and holy shit, is he batshit crazy?
Yeah. Okay, like I'm not gonna lie, I had total God. What's the name of the priest from Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Don't remember.
I have no idea. I've never seen it.
But no, this was.
Yeah.
It was once
Frollo.
Okay.
But yeah, like just that like this idea of like we are purging the sin and we will like burn this out, and in like leading these children to go ahead and participate in the purging of sin by torturing Alphonse with glowing hot metal.
Mm-hmm. And it's after that, then he gets news of the test.
Shut that bit out of my mind until you mentioned it again.
I'm sorry for reinstating PTSD, but yeah, it just goes to show the type of mindset that this animal has. I mean, because that's what he's acting like. He's acting like a raving lunatic, drunk with power.
Yeah. And we also see the testing chamber where they're preparing new weapons. We have a volunteer, finger quotes for this.
Yeah.
His family is standing in watching because he having been promised that if he participates in this, they'll be allowed to go free as they test another soul to see how well it's going to take. And we see the machine going, hear the see the door open and the mangled, twisted hand flopping out. And then calling for, okay, let's go ahead and put in the next one. And it's like, what? And as the man's wife looks on in horror, it's like, what? You think we were going to do that? Why would we worry about promises that we make to animals? Like, you can have this the 7th Legion, which this is not just, you've got this bad person at the top. With that person at the top, you've got this encouragement of and like this like allowing of rot throughout people who have these twisted ambitions and these complete lack of regard for the lives of others, finding a place where they can thrive. And we see them preparing to put the wife into the chamber, knowing that she's going to be the next test subject. That
Also,
kid's not gonna. Yeah, it's like, is that kid going to become another one of the Legatus's orphans now? Is that where they come from?
also
Probably.
the fact that this Oversoul for Diamond Weapon is Xenos.
That's gonna be.
Xenos found Galvus.
You have to imagine that the
Yeah, I don't.
you have to imagine that the actual
really
people
enjoy
found out about it.
fights. They're not great.
He'd be kind of just like disgusted with it.
Well, and here's the other thing: is basically once the Oversoul kicked in, Xenos's desire for battle and wanting to find us kicked in.
So
And
yeah, we're not just gearing up for a climactic thing with a diamond weapon, but a diamond weapon imprinted with this mindset that wants to battle against us, that views us as this glorious destiny.
he's still, but Valos is still trying to fix that. Valens, excuse me. He's trying to change the way the Oversoul is taking over, because he said it was useless to have an Oversoul with the motivations of a beast.
Yeah. Like he doesn't just want this to be a thing that he sets and unleashes because, okay, fine, it defeats the Warrior of Light, and then what? This thing isn't going to go around invading cities like I want. We need more control. We need a beast that we can keep on a leash.
Yeah, we need something that's going to follow our orders.
That's
So,
going to require a lot of test subjects.
how many people live in the Empire?
Slightly fewer now.
Whatever the number was a few minutes ago, -1.
The Empire might argue that, are they really people?
But
Clearly
yeah,
not.
This is just going
Yeah,
to
this
a
is
very
what-
disturbing side of the Empire.
As we've had people like we had Maxima, who fled, who defected to our side. Like, as you have some of these ones fleeing for their lives, the ones who are left behind are kind of the worst of the worst. It is really starting to feel like something of, is there any hope for Garlemald other than to just burn it all out?
I don't think so. I
Well,
think we should nuke him.
Mm,
I don't like Garlemald. Garlemald bothers me a lot. The only good thing they ever did was in Heaven's Word. They look at everything happening and they go, hey guys, this is messed up. When Garlemald says you guys have messed up, you've messed up.
And then comes the purge.
Yes.
get down with the sickness.
Yeah, definitely. Like, we do seem to be gearing up for the big confrontation with Garlemald. As like, I remember that was a thing. At one point, we had kind of like the grand companies, all of these nation states unifying together. We saw that with the Realm Reborn, where you had Operation Archon, and like several more groups coming to. And now it's becoming an even more united Eorzea that might be ready to take the fight directly to Garlemald.
It's becoming a united Heidelin.
I mean, still Eorzea.
Well, we have Othard too.
Yeah, we've got Hien's alliance as well.
So it's becoming a united Heidelin at this point.
I mean, Mericidia would probably still be like, you fuckers deal with it yourself and don't you dare come near us, but...
So,
yeah, the New Year's poem, I'll go ahead and mention since we talked briefly about it. The New Year's poem does also seem to suggest that Arlayan may be involved at some point in this. The references to exploring the heavens and to beneath the earth, to the Charlatan School of Astrology and to the Antitower and similar type endeavors. So, given their long-standing neutrality stance, or just non-involvement for that matter, one wonders if that's going to finally come to a head, or if that's going to be something that may start to tip the balance as we do move into the next expansion. So that's something else I'm looking looking for as we started bringing together all these disparate forces. We started bringing in the dragons. We have dragon crafters, and we're having a mixing of cultures. Like, we really are bringing all of these different beings together, and Charlene does seem like one of the ones that's left on that, though that also seems like one with their current leadership maybe might tip towards Garlemald. So that's something I'm going to be keeping an eye on for in the next round of story.
So yeah, we'll get
Do you feel better?
I'm still emotionally exhausted. I had forgotten about a couple of those bits, and reviewing and putting them together with the benefit of time to have processed it. It's like, wow, that really was fucked up.
Yup.
Yeah. I mean,
In some ways, I had not really realized until I processed it all.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, I just went through that quest line this week, so it was pretty fresh in my head, and like, wow, those guys are really fucked in the head.
I got through it and was just like, I already didn't like anyone in this alliance. I already didn't like anyone in the 7th Legion. This is not helping. This is not making it easier.
No.
I mean, the remnants of the 7th Legion were those who stood behind Nail Van
Darnus.
Yeah, even as it came to like this. So, like, the ones who are still left, they've been yeah, they're the ones who were kind of in for a penny, in for a pound with all this.
All right.
I mean, like, those who weren't had defected or otherwise gotten out of there or gotten killed.
All right. I don't think we have time necessarily to go through a full bit of Eden's Promise.
No, not really.
That for another time.
Well,
there's adorable lesbians. There's some really good symbolism with the rainbow. It's awesome.
I mean, there's some really good fights as well. I mean, I enjoyed the Cloud of Darkness fight. The fight with the
Shadow Keeper.
That thing that looked kind of like a really weird Cerberus model.
It was the Shadow Keeper.
Yep, that was a really interesting fight. I still have issues with some of those mechanics with the true Shadow.
It helps a lot if you had done a whole bunch of the Omega fight, and so you are very familiar with left and right and starboard and larboard and thinking about things in those terms, because you have a whole bunch of sudden shifts of directional type things and where the facing is.
Yeah, it's just like when he's shifts like 90 degrees off of the way the actual boss is facing, and then you got to figure out which left and right is there. That's where it kind of confuses me sometimes.
Yeah, a literal nightmare of a boss conjured up from Reen's deepest traumas.
Oh god, that fight with the mix between Thancred and what's his face?
Yeah, so a kind of, as said, like literally dredged up from Reen's deepest fears, it becomes this manifestation of a weird mix of Thancred and Ranjit, these two father figures for her, fought in an arena that looks like the depths of a Yulmoran jail where she spent so much of her life.
It was an interesting fight though, and then there was those
Gunblade attacks with the summoned dragon moves.
Oh yeah,
I really love that fight.
Trying to remember which ones are the ones you need that are gonna double, and then which ones will kick you back. So knowing where you need to stand, and then the ones where you need to stand close, far, and then way far. It's
Gunblade charged up with varying types of ether and needing to remember the various moves he's pulling and how those will be affected by the ether that he's using. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. It felt like a really thematically stylish fight. You have some of Thancred's like that. I forget the name, but like the one where he kind of like moves to the shadows. So you have his sudden thing for stealth. Mm-hmm. Then followed by the dragon comes in and starts charging up new moves. Like, it was this really weird and interesting melding of the two individuals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a fun fight. And then there was the booby mommy at the end.
That was one of those ones. The final boss, literally called Eden's Promise. Mm-hmm. That again, it looks strange, but under those depths, it melds symbolism from a lot of different real-world things, a couple ancient artifacts,
including a pineapple tree.
There's a lot going on with that, and that's maybe I'll have to like do a short thing about later, because there's just a lot of fun symbolism in there. I do want to mention one thing that did come up. So we had previously released all the various elements, brought all of those back to the empty, and then seeing it start to fade and realizing that while we've released all that, there's still a lot of light and we need to start bringing in that dynamic dark energy, the entire reason for fighting the cloud of light or darkness.
Yep.
And after that fight, that color-changing crystal that seems to show that elemental structure of the stuff that has been released takes on a new striped pattern, suspiciously arranged: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple, all of those elemental colors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of...
Yes, Seyrr, we know that there's a ship.
So in terms of the elemental associations with each of the colors, with all the various things that we have, there is no good reason for those to be arranged that way. There is no real justifiable thing in world for why they should happen to just form the pattern of a rainbow.
They are not in Wooburg order. They are not in any specific order. They just happened to show up as a rainbow.
Well,
yeah, that one I got a kick out of. First off, there's a really nice piece of symbolism that I haven't seen talked about as much. One of the original biblical interpretation of the rainbow as a thing that was sent after the flood, as God's promise to never again flood the world. And we have this raid series called Eden's Promise, and this rainbow, representative of the promise of Eden to never again flood the world with light. So it's kind of a really fun parallel there. Plus, there's also the, oh my god, they're so in lesbians, and yay, we're going to celebrate that. I mean, come on. The Twitter account, at least the English one, had to point out the, oh my god, they're holding hands for the patch image. They're so in lesbians, and it's adorable.
You can see your pride shining through, Seyrr.
I was gonna say Sarah's happier now, which was a good thing.
It's good. Like, none of that disturbing stuff. We've got really clever, deep biblical allusion that parallels really well as we're rebuilding the literal Garden of Eden here. And then we've also got adorable lesbians. Like, what's not to love?
You're not
I feel
wrong.
like that's a good point to leave it on.
I was gonna say, I mean, we're on the first, so that's not ideal. But other than that, it's fine.
But we can go back and forth, so we're fine.
The first is allowed to have lesbians too.
All right. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about before we go ahead and close this up?
Oh,
not tonight.
Yeah. As I said, a lot of table setting, especially in the MSQ, mostly dealing with a lot of those long-running questions, problems, stuff like the issue of tempering, the question of what these, how the relations with the beast tribes look, how these various ones are going to be moving towards the future. And it feels like we really kind of tied up some of those and put in a thing where we are well positioned to really start facing the threat that we're going to be dealing with, starting with next patch and then running into 6.0. So as I said, lots of table setting, but done in a way that felt really satisfying. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, overall, I was pleased with 5.4.
God, Grad, he is so adorable.
I'm just glad that we actually got a patch. My bar, honestly, for Shadowbringers after about 5.2 has been, it'd be really nice if it was off the ground.
Pandemic
Pandemic made it really rough to just be like, all right, we're getting a patch in 3 months and it's going to have a raid, it's going to have a dungeon, it's going to have 6 MSQs, it's going to have you get whatever we get. So I'm just like, when it shows up, and I'll take whatever you've got for me, and it comes in a weird order, and it's okay.
Yep, and I'm fine with it as long as they are doing it safely, and they are staying safe, and they are giving us quality content.
Yeah.
My first world problem is my video game is kind of boring. I think I'm gonna be okay.
But
I really do.
At least our video game isn't Cyberpunk 2077.
That's not a video game. That's a scam in a box.
Woo!
And on that bombshell, that's going to do it for this episode. If you liked what you heard, please make sure to like, subscribe, or follow us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or whatever your preferred podcatcher is. And if possible, leave us a rating or review. It really does help us out in the community and lets us know what you think of the podcast. If you really dig the show, consider subscribing here at twitch.tv/PhoenixDownRadio and get access to a whole bunch of subscriber-only emotes and badges. So you can throw out the Seyrr emote or the Klauss emote, or if you're really feeling saucy, you can subscribe at the tier 3 and get the Lava Scorpion. Ooh. Or you can go out to our Patreon account at patreon.com/PhoenixDownRadio, like our benevolent overlord, Rory Fenrir. All proceeds go towards growing the show, cover hosting costs, allow us to do some fun things, get some cameras, improvements on the show, and yeah, we try and reinvest in this and make it better and better. But any kind of support, whether it's emails, likes, tweets, or retweets, subs, donations, or whatever you do, it's greatly appreciated. We love interacting with you guys and the rest of the community. Go check out our backlog of podcasts, as well as a few interesting articles out at our website, PhoenixDownRadio.com. If you have questions, suggestions, or just want to shoot the shit, email us, podcast@PhoenixDownRadio.com. Check out our Discord at, you can find that at PhoenixDownRadio.com/Discord. That should give you the link to our Discord channel. And we are also out on YouTube. We're trying to grow our video presence. You can go to youtube.com/PhoenixDownRadio. All right, who wants to shout out somebody?
I'm going to shout out one of my favorite coworkers who I'm losing today. It's her last day. Congratulations, Jess. Good luck in your future endeavors. Have fun freediving and riding horses and studying psychology, you weirdly brilliant child born after I had already dropped out of college the first time.
You're old.
Do you want to have your bones turned to dust? Have somebody be like, I don't know what it's... Use the words 3D print the save icon at a person unironically, and you know that you're old. It's rough. Also, shout outs to Alex and Kat, who are here pretty much every week harassing me in chat, even though they don't play this hot mess. It is also always great to have you here. And shout outs to the awesome beverage manager at Uwaj Maya, who finally started answering my emails and is going to bring stuff over so I don't have to fly to Japan to import food anymore.
Woo! And where can people find you and follow your whole thing with this Marvelous Motors debacle?
You can't find me on social media because social media is a trash fire. You can find me on Instagram and on TikTok at Marvelous Tofu. I post a lot of weird, janky stuff. You can also follow my business ventures at marvelousmotors.org and at Marvelous Motors Project on TikTok and Instagram. I'm picking up cars that nobody needs, fixing them, and giving them to people. Sorry, there's an actual set of words that I'm supposed to use now. Giving the cars to the at-risk members of our community. I think that's what it is. I don't know. Steve gave me a list of things to say. Also, shout-outs to Wanderer Sabaku for doing legal crap and not charging me for it. Which was great.
Another member, a friend of the show, member of the 14 community. Go check out Stage Reborn. They do amazing work. That's that Wanderer Sabaku. So
Great guy.
A very cool guy. And if you guys have ideas on things you'd like to see us do for fundraisers for Marvelous Motors, let us know. We really want to get some good ideas so we can do a fundraiser this summer. Seyrr?
Square Enix has Circuit Superstars coming out. We could do a car game.
So shout out to a bunch of friends over on Excalibur, where we did maps a whole lot yesterday and today, and then also last night played a whole bunch of Parkitect, and I got to be in charge of making the fireworks displays for our amusement park. It was great. So shout out to Talia Lumala, Suna Zatashi, Electo Erines, and Arika Hyorin, Bubu Umbutu, and Korgash Axebreaker, all over on Excalibur. You're great, and I love you, and like we should make more roller coasters. I think I've worked out how to do the fire jets properly. Yes. Shout out to... I had something. I can't even remember what anymore. If you feel like you deserve a shout out, have a shout out. You can poke me and I'll shout you out. It'll be great. You know what? I'm in a good mood. Ask me for stuff.
Can I have $1?
Nick Nar, you're being active in the chat. Shout out to you. Good job on that. And you can find me on social media at FF14 Seyrr. That's FFXIV Seyrr. I post randomly, mostly random things that I cooked or interesting, retweeting interesting things I saw other people said. More often, you can find me on our Discord, which I'm pretty sure we have the link to. Where do we have that link? It's in our Twitter page. It's on our Twitter. It's in our Twitch page. It's in a bunch of stuff. You should join us on Discord, shooting the shit. It's pretty awesome. And yeah.
Yeah, phoenixdownradio.com/Discord for those of you listening on the podcast. Otherwise,
oh, sweet. We have a direct link on that. Nice.
Yeah, well, I kind of link. Otherwise, like I say, you can go to our call-in channel from the link that I posted in the Twitch chat. But yeah, otherwise just search for the Phoenix Down Radio on Discord and you should find us. If you need a link, we can send you one. Just email us podcast@phoenixdownradio.com or hit us up on social medias. As far as for me, I always want to shout out to these two knuckleheads to my either side here for always being here to discuss this game that we love. I put these notes together this afternoon just because everything in my life right now, all of my energy is going towards real life stuff right now. So haven't had a chance to sit down and play games as much as I wanted to or anything like that. So getting to sit here every 2 weeks and just bullshit and have a good time with these two, it's like I said last time, it's just real grounding and makes me just kind of come back to reality a little bit, even though we're talking about something that's not real. It's just the social interaction you get with friends that you don't get to see very often. Shout out to everybody watching us live here at twitch.tv/PhoenixDownRadio. Let's see who we've got here. Nick Nar. We've got Rory, Allie Witz, Pyrocats, Tris Marigold, Silly Gnome 225. So much thank yous to everybody who is checking us out here. If you're listening to us live listening to us on the podcast, come check us out live sometime. You get a pretty fun pre and post show, things that you don't get on the podcast, and I think it's just a really good time. So thank you so much for all your support, and yeah, if you want to follow me, you can catch me on Twitter at PHXDN_KLAUSS. And that's basically me. So, for my co-hosts, Seyrr Timono, for Taliz Marvelous, I am Klauss Nightbringer, wishing everybody a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you on the next one. Take care.
Phoenix Down Radio is a production of PhoenixDownRadio.com and Illusion Productions. Final Fantasy XIV and Eorzea are trademarks of Square Enix. In-game content for Phoenix Down Radio is the copyright of Square Enix. Opening music for Phoenix Down Radio is provided by Guilty Gear Rock You. Check out the Metal Chocobo theme cover and many other music videos at youtube.com/Guilty Gear Rock You. Closing music for this episode is provided by Guitar Wanker 90. Please check out their full version of Matoya's Cave and other rock video game covers at youtube.com/Guitar Wanker 90. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of Phoenix Down Radio and its hosts and do not reflect the views of Square Enix.